We're not in the 80s where guys can go out on the street and hustle, sell crack, and make, pockets full of money. Like that environment's changed.
Old hustles, they're over. They've been harvested and everything from a business concept, And we're not going back there. So it's going to be the new hustle. We're moving to surveillance capitalism. We're moving to a different world where, the numbers will go down for a minute because you can't do the same stuff. Everybody's still doing the same old crimes.
I mean, you got AI now. AI can simulate voices. They can, you can target old people that don't know. A young kid can target old people who don't know this and call and get them to cash out money to them and not even know it. Just get a few friends and some burner phones, and they all decide to just, in our generation, it was prank calling. Now you can make money out of it.
Everybody's got a camera on their house, business, whatever. And, the facial recognition is being used. So people are becoming more aware of the fact that it's just not, you're not going to get away with it.
The drop in crime, real progress or just another lie? Welcome to End the Violence. Welcome back, everyone, to End the Violence. I'm Dr. G, the eternal seeker of knowledge, and I'm here with my co-host today. I got Atiba. What's up, Atiba?
Hey, what's going on?
And I got Pastor Andre. Pastor
What's happening? How you doing?
What color is that? What color is that sweatsuit you're wearing right there?
I'm wearing pink, man. Pink child of God, man.
Pink child of God. It's wonderful, dude. I hope you guys are doing well, and it's good to hear, Atiba, the weather's finally getting warmer in Ohio. I know the traffic has not been good here in LA, so I could just imagine as summer rolls around what traffic would be like in Ohio, but I'm pretty sure it's nowhere close to what we deal with on a daily basis here. So you guys ready to start this?
We're ready. Let's roll.
Okay, I want to start with you, Atiba. Do you think crime is really on its way down, or is it just a numbers game that people are trying to play?
Man, it's a numbers game, man. Crime. You know what? I mean, there's two ways that you can lie, and one of those ways is with statistics, and it's like you can have a blip on your investment chart, but it doesn't mean you're rich. You have to have some sustainability to crime reduction. I don't take it serious if a city gets out here and starts saying we reduce crime by 17% or we reduce crime. I don't give a shit that you reduce crime for a month or two. And I didn't read the stats, but listen to the details of what these people say. We reduce crime is down for 2025, but we're only 6 months in 2025. And currently this is the warmest day of the year, at least in our city in central Ohio. So it's been a long, hard, cold winter. And you ain't even got into the summer good, and we're talking about crime reduction. Let me give you an analogy. It's like you tell your kid to go clean your room up and do a good job, and they run downstairs like you got to see this. You're all excited. You go up there and they show you that they fucking cleaned off the bookshelf. I'm not getting excited about it. Nor do I think I don't think anybody in the public read that article and said, man, I feel safer right now.
Mm.
What do you have to say to that, Andre?
If it was a primary year where they're trying to get voted in, I don't know if there's a voting season coming up in Ohio or wherever they gave that stat, but then we'd know exactly why it's being done. It was
the Department of Justice. It was the Department
of Justice overall. So this is nationwide. Yeah, I believe that they have levers, just like the economists have levers that they can pull. I believe that there are levers, information levers that are pulled for different purposes. So I'd really like to get behind why now why is that stat being pulled? But it could also be, if we dug a little deeper, possibly it could have something to do with the fact that we're in a surveillance, we're moving to surveillance capitalism. We're moving to a different world where, the numbers will go down for a minute because you can't do the same stuff. Everybody's still doing the same old crimes. And so people are realizing it's not working anymore. Stuff that you could have gotten away with back in the 80s and 90s, you could get away with, writing bad checks because check systems was closed on the weekends. And unless you were on the list, you weren't good. Now you move forward to 2025, in immediate transactions, and then we're moving to smart money and all that kind of stuff. So I think that crime is transitioning. That sounds crazy to say, but I think criminals have to get a new gig and find new ways. If they're going to stay in a life of crime, they got to find new ways to do it, not to encourage anybody.
So if you guys think these numbers are bullshit, personally, what numbers have you seen, or what metrics do you like to follow when it comes to these type of answers, especially within the violence, right? Because I could see a report like this really affecting you, saying, hey, why do we need to end the violence? We're doing the right thing. Our policies are bringing down crime. But then again, you have someone who's doing work in the streets and doing this every single day, and he's saying those numbers are bullshit. So how do you combat this?
Well, I think it's what are you using the numbers for? I think that's the question that we need to ask of these departments when they put numbers out there, because I find that a lot of people use numbers to suggest that they've got things either under control, or they've got or some of the strategies that they've implemented are working. And so are you using numbers to boast about what's happening? Are you using numbers to follow trends? If you're using numbers to follow trends, then it takes a little bit more time. Before I would rush to say, hey, crime is down, use the numbers to really assess what's going on, because sometimes numbers adjust in one area and it impacts another. So if you're using them to study correlations, you can look and say, hey, we have a reduction in the amount of assaults that's going on across the country, but we may have a rise in theft. So what's going on here? We can try to look at what some of the impacts that or some of the trends around the country and how they're impacting communities, and learn and study for them and use those numbers in a positive way. But I feel like, far too often people are quick to rush out there with numbers because they got some good news. I mean, if you're the head of a department and somebody says, hey, we just looked at the computer and guess what? Crime is down 30% this quarter. And they're like, wow, let's get that out. Let's get a public service announcement and let people know that crime. Then that's asinine. Why are you trying to rush out and let somebody know that there was a adjustment in statistics over like a short period of time? For me, because crime is something that impacts the fabric of our country, our nation, our communities, we should be very, very conservative about those type of statements until we've had a chance to analyze them over a period of time. You'd feel differently if you said, hey, over the last 5 years, crime is trending down. And if you can see that and you're using those numbers appropriately, you can at least make assessments as to why you think that's happening. And is there an adverse impact in a different area? But we
that's
don't
causing
usually
it.
do
Yeah.
that.
See if there's something else that's triggering it. And I think that's what we're seeing. I mean, they're claiming, I think over 2024 and 23, that, when they're looking at the reduction, I think it was like 3% overall in violent crimes. So it's looking at like rape, murder.
The stat I saw, it said 17% in violent crime.
Wow, reduction year over year. So then, I'm looking at like, the gun sound machine software that they have now. If a gun goes off, they're able to respond faster. If and then they have carjacking units that task force that they've hired. So maybe it's that, are they heralding that there's certain things they've implemented that have made the reduction. And it may, and again, I'm oftentimes going to say either more manpower or technology has been instituted to curb it because people are saying it's not worth it anymore. I think we were joking before saying certain careers, people are realizing it's not profitable anymore. So
Yeah.
they're moving to new, they're reskilling and upskilling, for what's next.
So going
Yeah,
off,
you're right. You're absolutely right. Go
go
ahead.
ahead.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Atiba. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say you're absolutely right. Just a few minutes ago, we were, talking about, how crime is starting to evolve. If you're going to say, hey, crime, there's a reduction of crime, then again, you have to look at crime across the board. We do know that they're scamming and technology fraud and those type of crimes are like skyrocketing. So it's like, oh, you're going to talk about there's a reduction of crime, but where and what specific area, and what kind of sense can we make of that? I mean, think about it. Like, just from an everyday standpoint, has it changed our culture? Do we feel safe? We here in Central Ohio just had over the last couple of weeks, we started our festival seasons, and there were huge problems at the festivals. There were fights, there were shootings. Our city's convening like strategy meetings to try to figure out how we can all get together and combat, this. And this is right out the gate. We haven't even got to the large festivals yet. So I think there's a lot of work that needs to be done. And ultimately, until we see sustainable reduction over years, several years of time, and we can make sense of it, I don't think we need to get super cautious. I think we need to know that this is a problem and this problem is here to stay until we have some changes and things that really are able to make something worth reporting about it.
So do you think if there truly is a drop in crime, do you think it's due to police force, or do you think it's to community, or do you think it's due to technology?
At this stage, I'm going to lean more on technology making it difficult to get away with it. So people are weighing their options a little better in a lot of ways. Yeah. Because I mean, you don't have DNA was like people were afraid of that at one point, but now there's cameras everywhere. Everybody's got a camera on their house, business, whatever. And, the facial recognition is being used. We realize Louisiana, we talked about that last week. Louisiana is using facial recognition already. So people are becoming more aware of the fact that it's just you're not going to get away with it. So I think technology would be highest on my list. Effectiveness of the programs, like the military, the police have been militarized with those, what are those trucks called? The Bear Claws or the Bear Cats or something like that? Those big military vehicles that the police have been getting surplus vehicles from military. A lot of tactical training and different things like that. And then now it looks as if our country will move into more of a militarization, even further militarization of partnering the military with the police forces in certain areas. And so people are seeing that happen. If you travel in Europe and other countries, they have their AK-47s, they have their AR-15s, I guess, or whatever.
Yeah.
Have them out in the public at every corner. There's soldiers along with police equipped at that level. So you're not messing around when you see that. Not that people still don't, but you got to be a bad somebody to decide you want to go up against that.
Yeah, I don't think where I'm at locally, we're not seeing anything that would suggest that, there's a huge reduction in crime. I mean, statistics can tell all kinds of stories, but I don't see any huge reduction of crime. And I think if we had to look at it, it's probably a combination of factors. I mean, I absolutely agree. Technology is where the money is. So, we're not in the 80s where guys can go out on the street and hustle, sell crack and make, pockets full of money like that. That environment's changed And again, you're right. We got cameras. We got a lot of things that make it a lot easier for police to do their work. So I would say maybe we're just kind of prematurely trying to hang our hat on something here. I think there's a lot of variables that impact, the ups and downs of the charts, so to speak. But yeah, I don't see it, and I don't necessarily feel like we feel we're in the clear with dealing with these issues. I do feel like technology makes it a lot easier for law enforcement now. A lot of law enforcement is just done on the internet and social media. I mean,
Yeah.
social media has such a large impact on people. People don't even mind, the crime now if they get enough clicks. I mean, hell, if enough people think about it, if you did some polling and talked to young people and said, hey, if you went out and did this, and it translated into you getting in trouble. But maybe hit them with a survey question and say, hey, if you went and committed this act, and that act is going to, going to put you potentially in danger of being arrested for a crime that might lock you up for, say 1 to 2 years. However, you're going to get, a million followers, on your
They'll take
Instagram.
it.
Yeah, think about how many young people will be like, wait, how many? You
Yeah, back in
know
the
what I
day,
mean?
they used
So,
to be like, I'll rob the bank, hide the money, do the 10 years, and come out and spend the money. But
right,
now they're
right,
like,
right.
I'll just take the clout. It's
Yeah, I'll
crazy.
take the clout and run my
Yeah.
fucking station from inside and be richer when I come out.
You know, so I guess maybe for me, like Atiba, you're saying in Ohio, you're not seeing a reduction. For me, what I'm seeing is the increase in mindless crime versus violent crime. And they're doing these
Absolutely.
stupid things in front of police officers. They're doing street corner takeovers. Was it intersection
Yeah,
takeovers? You've
street.
seen those, and they do it here in Florida. They do it all over. Intersection takeovers. They'll have the water gun now. They have these big water guns. They're attacking police with water guns, and the police are like taking it. Nobody's gotten shot yet, but so it's a lot
Yeah.
of mindless stuff. Maybe people are just doing dumber stuff. They've moved away from this other side, but maybe, again, there's still a lot of violence going on, a lot of guns
Yeah.
going off.
Yeah. A
Well,
lot of a lot of violence toward law enforcement as well.
so let me ask you this. Is it still cool to be in a gang, a violent gang? I know there's MS-13 out here in California, but you really don't hear about the Crips and the Bloods and that type of problem. You don't I mean, I don't hear much gang related deaths, at least here in California. Maybe I'm just turning a blind eye and a deaf ear on it, but I haven't heard it. Is it still quote unquote cool to be in these gangs?
I don't know if cool is the word. I don't know that it's ever, I think that it's a little more complex when you look at the gang structure, and the people who join gangs and what they're looking for. I think sometimes we look at them as just, like the criminal element, and you don't look at the social element or the financial and organizational element. And so uh, we still have gangs, and you're out in LA, so you say that you don't see as many Crips and Bloods, and maybe you don't see them, but there's definitely associations and affiliations. I mean, people are still looking to belong to something. Again, it may just be that the type of crimes that are happening are starting to shift.
It's an interesting tie-in here, but it made me think of it when we're talking about this reduction. We also have to look at. We talked about technology. We have to look at. There's a reduction in teenage pregnancies and birth rates as a result of cell phones, right, and other technology. So I'm wondering if maybe talking about technology being one of the causes, people being so much more addicted to their devices that we're seeing a reduction in people in general just out and about doing stuff that would be tantamount to violent crime. It may be a weird correlation, but I'm just wondering if that likewise, people are just being more hooked on their devices and gaming and, just not out in the street, but rather in the digital realm as we're heading. Tell me, I mean, maybe I'm crazy on that one, but
No, you may have a point.
Well, I think, I mean, obviously, when you go to phones, what are the kids mostly looking at in the young adults? They're looking at social media, right? I mean, that's what they're interested in doing. So, I mean, am I looking at the wrong Instagram sites or the wrong TikToks? I mean, I still don't see a lot of, gang affiliation on there either. Or stuff like that. Am I missing the boat as well on that one?
So that's a very interesting point. Why? Because of course we know the algorithm is going to send certain things to you, but let's also think about what we said earlier. People are realizing you put something on your TikTok feed, even though the clout chasers that want the million followers, others are realizing you put it out there, you're going to get busted. So are they on some type of dark web that exists that we don't know about? Because remember, the dark web had snuff films, murder films, rape films, like real life stuff that people would use Bitcoin to pay for, so that nobody knew they were actually watching it. Because that's when Bitcoin was actually non-traceable in that regard. So people would take a Bitcoin, pay to watch a snuff film, which is a murder film, a real life murder film. And so that was where the dark matter went to. Now, here we are in 2025, the dark web has been outed in such, we know it exists, it really exists. Where have people migrated to? Where has this kind of activity migrated to? Gangs they're clearly still there, but where's the activity migrated to?
Yeah, I think sometimes we got to consider that there's huge generational shifts going on. If you look at, I'm Generation X, and I look at how I grew up, and I look at how the world was, in the 70s and 80s, and I always try to tell my kids, like, things were so different. But even with my kids, with my older kids who are millennials, they grew up a lot different than Generation Z. So you talk about the millennials actually identify with a lot of the culture that Generation X grew up, especially because a lot of them were the first kids that our generation was having. So we were a little bit more sensitive about how much social media and technology they were exposed to. We were there. If you go back to the 90s and early 2000s, it was like, hey, look, wait a minute, get outside, get on that bicycle, get the pedaling, get a skateboard. We were a little bit tougher and on them, I think, as parents and as a generation. But then you had the Generation Z. So I would say now these generations are growing up. The millennials, that generation starting to get a little bit mature, and the type of things that they're going to be into is going to shift. But you look at Generation Z, I mean, hell, you mentioned Instagram, but these younger kids, they're what about Discord? What about some of these gaming applications that are huge? And that's a world for them. I was telling a friend the other day, we're talking about how kids and things that they do on Discord and these chat platforms where they all meet up to play games and everything. And I know that people are struggling with some of the things that are happening in those chats, but keep in mind that's really real to some of these generations. You say to a kid, hey, guess what? You can't be on this, you can't be on this gaming site anymore. You can't do this, and you take their phone away. You just took them away from their community. Gamers, they have real life communities out here with people they've never even met, but it's real to them. And so when we start looking at what's going on in society, we got to take into consideration that there's a lot of changes happening, even from between the Millennials and Generation Z, there are huge differences. Now, you could say in general, as some of them are a little closer in age, you can see these trends, but how close of attention have we paid to this as Generation X? You go talk to our generation, half of our generation doesn't even engage in social media. So how can we even have a good understanding of this when it's not widely recognized? And think about most of the organizations that are out here trying to combat crime and make changes in society. A lot of these generations are baby boomers, and no offense to baby boomers, but they're even farther removed, so they don't know shit. But they're the ones making the decisions for all their staff and planning out the activities and the ways that you will address these problems. We just the problem that we have in society is we get too sure of ourselves. We start spewing out numbers without really taking a good critical look at what's happening, the trends and what's happening. And that's why I feel like, we don't stand forward, we don't stay in front of these things. Don't they say that in order not to repeat history, you have to learn history?
Mm-hmm. You mentioned the gamers. I want to say something on that. And then there was something else you said toward the end there that really pointed it out. Oh, well, let's go back to the gamers. There are new ways of earning income have really cropped up, and the kids are on it. Like young kids are using AI to start businesses and generate income and all this sort of stuff. So yes, there are new ways of earning. And then the second thing that popped up in something you said there, Atiba, was the anger. There are violent crimes being committed as a result of taking away devices from kids, and they're committing them against their own family members. Property destruction, stabbing parents. I mean, literally, like a woman had to be buried the other day because her son, along with some mental health exacerbation, maybe not necessarily mentally ill in terms of traditional, but mentally frustrated, he stabbed his mother, killed her, over taking away his devices. So I mean, we're facing a new type of violence is cropping up as a result of this.
So do you think technology is making it easier to get away with crime? Let's play devil's advocate. You're saying it's easier to find, get on top of crime quicker on the law enforcement side because of technology. Do you think these younger minds, because of AI, because of technology, are figuring out how to get away with crime easier?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, you got AI now. AI can simulate voices. They can, they can you can target old people that don't know this shit and go, a young kid can target old people who don't know this and call and get them to cash out money to them and not even know it. Think about that. If you just get a few friends and some burner phones and they all decide to just, in our generation, it was prank calling. Now you can make money out of it. Hey, let's figure out, and say, change the voice up and call.
You're forgetting about the emergency breakthrough as well.
Yeah. Now, as we transition to central bank digital currencies, the broad currency and the bank currency. The broad currency is the currency that was physically in our possession. Like we have a bunker of cash somewhere. They can't control that per se. You could have spent that on the black market or however you want to spend that. You determine how that's spent. But if it's bank currency, then there's a ledger as to what took place and what you spent it on. So they're moving us with central bank digital, moving all of us onto a ledger. So getting away with financial crimes is going to be a challenge, but maybe some of these, maybe there are other crimes that they'll still be able to stay ahead of the curve with, and we're not trying to encourage any of that. We're really saying, look, the time is coming together where you're just going to have to get a skill and live life. Stop end the violence and let's get a skill.
Here's what I feel. I feel like, crime is a problem in our country. We know it's a problem, but we only face it the way we have faced it historically. That the old model of dealing with crime hasn't adjusted. So we're still reporting on that same model. We'll still you hear very little about digital crime or about technological crime unless you hear about a data breach or something like that. I think that the problem is getting a lot more complicated. And I mean, the more our government doesn't shift to solutions, like if we're still paying huge amounts of money to police departments just to keep where people walk and shop and do their business safer, how can we combat, some of the crime we're facing and some of the rising crime that's happening in the digital world? And we could talk about, yeah, I don't want to go too far with this topic, but we can talk about digital crime in respects to internally the crime that's being committed by citizens of our community, but that digital crime is without borders and boundaries. So a lot of that digital crime are other countries attacking us. You know, I read a piece that was talking about a lot of those social security numbers, that Doge found that people who have been dead hundreds of years and these things, a lot of those crimes are happening from other countries. So, I mean, if you're a small, poor country and you have a country as wealthy as the United States, why not invest in a bunch of hackers and people who are able to attack our systems? I mean, we've all gotten calls from people from India and some of these countries, reporting to us what's wrong with our computer. I mean,
Mhm.
I've literally gotten arguments with them, man. Like, fucking stop calling my phone. Look, I got in an argument with one of those scammers. He sounded like he was a guy from India, and I was so, because the same number keeps calling. So I
Mhm.
was like, man, I'm about to tell this dude off, man. So I grabbed my phone. I said, listen here, motherfucker, stop calling this. Man, that dude gave it right back to me. He was like, fuck you, motherfucker. I was like, you be. He's like, your mother's a. I mean, I'm saying, I couldn't even do nothing but laugh because I know this dude is like thousands and thousands of miles away.
Mhm.
But those are really viable jobs for people in some of these countries. So,
They have whole
I feel
call
like
centers for that. Yeah.
yeah, we've been reactive to crime in our country for so many years. How can we be proactive to the ways we're being taken advantage of nationally?
There are some other crimes, as you said, that there's like extortion. There's what's the
Yeah.
ransomware, yeah, and those have really turned up. There's a mother who her son committed suicide because some two guys in Nigeria found information off his phone that they could extort him with, some images or something like that. And they said they were going to put it out to all his friends if he didn't pay some money or something. He found some money, paid them, and then they said they wanted more, and he didn't know what to do, so he committed suicide. So those are
Wow.
the crimes. Then you also have the ransomware crimes where they're holding your your company's information or your private information ransom. And you know, even my own mother has been a victim of some of these types of things where they take over your phone, but they trick you into doing it. Like, and then my mother didn't tell anybody for 4 days. So they had access to her everything on her phone for 4 days. They got 4 grand from her, like 3 or 4 grand from her.
Wow.
Oh, they got,
Wow.
yeah. So crime is getting savvy, and that's
Yeah.
just the tip of the
But
iceberg.
are
Hmm.
these
Right.
crimes truly urban crimes? They sound like white collar crimes. They're not like I mean, or am I just an ass for thinking that? Because none of these crimes that you guys are talking about are urban. But if those are the
Okay.
crimes that are
Let,
being
Yeah,
reported,
yeah.
if those are the
let,
crimes that are being reported, won't that
Uh,
hurt organizations like End the Violence?
I'm smiling because I know Atiba is going to tell you exactly what I'm thinking.
Yeah, yeah. You know what? You're looking at this as right. Oh, those are white collar crime. Listen, listen. You know, the streets are way more sophisticated than you know. And just because dope dealers aren't making money selling dope, don't mean they ain't smart enough to set up and find the local cats that know how to go and create these scams and fund and support those. We're seeing it all kind of ways. I mean, you know. the streets is going to find a way to make money, and they'll venture into any field that's paying. So, if the crime exists, they don't care. They'll pay people. I see it on a lot of levels. Pastor just mentioned what happened to his mom. I got a close friend. Her her tattoo. Well, she's a tattoo artist, and she promotes her business on Instagram. Well, someone stole her Instagram account, and she went to Instagram. Nothing that she could do to get it back. They have enough pictures of her to keep posting shit like it's her, and they take her appointments and have people cash app them the money, and they go to show up. They show up at her work and say, "Hey, I cash apped you," and she's like, keep telling people, don't send anything. My account was hacked, and there's nothing Instagram will do to give it back to me, and they're running it like a ongoing business. And she contacted them, and they tried to charge her something ridiculous to buy her account back. But I would say this: don't make a mistake of thinking that just because these are white collar crimes that they don't happen on the streets, and they're not connected to street enterprises.
My father-in-law, he's deceased now, so I can tell the story. He ran, maybe I told this in one of our earlier ones. He ran a pizzeria in Bronx, and he was selling cocaine and heroin out of the same joint. So when he got arrested, he went to the Fed minimum. He's not the Fed, he went to the Fed, which they call Club Med or Club Fed. He played golf, tennis in a tennis outfit, a white shorts and polo shirt, and taking pictures and stuff like that with trophies. He actually had a good time, basically, because he didn't end up going to the regular prison. So, there always have been in the I carefully say the hood environment, complex crime taking place, and they're always looking to swap, because drugs was what we were given at one point. We didn't bring the drugs in; the drugs were shipped in by the pharmaceutical companies and the healthcare companies looking to get it at a cheaper price. They brought in the magnitude of drugs on the cargo ships. There was no black person or a person of color bringing in that stuff. It was corporations. I wouldn't even say even an individual white person. It was corporations bringing that stuff in, and then it got disseminated out into the community, along with the guns and all of that, to support the narrative.
Yeah. And I believe we just have a violent culture, and that's not changing. The social media is not helping that, video games, nothing is helping it. Our culture is a very, very violent culture. And I don't believe that just because crime shift from place to place that, that it's going to, result in the communities being safer. Again, you might see a reduction in one aspect of crime, but an uptick in another area of crime.
So, what is the biggest lie people tell themselves to be convinced that the streets are getting safer at this point? Because if you don't believe they are, what are people doing?
I don't think anybody does. Look at people's habits. Are people acting like the streets are safer? Are people feeling comfortable that they can leave their doors open now? Again, we've had an uptick of crime just in the last few weeks. Last week, we had 2 officers get shot. We had several festivals that, there were shootings. We've had several march. I don't see, so I'm not going to sit here and say that, there's a reduction in crime until people's behavior changes. And we are, we're kind of spiraling out of control in regards to crime. And we don't look at, some of the cultures who have success with crime and what they're doing, and measure, cultural differences and make correlations that can make sustainable safety a reality in our community. I mean, look at Japan. Look how safe in terms of crime Japan is. It's ridiculous. It's like you got over 100 million people, all shoved in on top of each other in Japan, look how many times you see like something on social media or something that says, "Hey, I left my wallet, and I had $5,000 and I left it, in some busy area of Japan, and they turned it into the police station."
Mm. Now, I do wonder though, because of course we know there's the Yakuza and other elements like that, but I also wonder if they suppress the information of certain crimes coming out of certain countries. Like Dubai has an ugly underbelly. They have the worker bee underbelly, where they have these people living in horrible conditions, building these magnificent structures, but they're living in these shanty towns and things outside of the areas. It make you wonder if there's a suppression in some of these countries of the violence. Now, Japan is a special place culturally, and the people deciding to make that a cultural approach, that we look out for each other. But yeah,
Yeah,
like.
I think you're absolutely. I think there are countries that probably suppress it. I don't think Japan is one of
Mhm.
those countries. I mean, Japan, you look and their kids are going to school by themselves with no chaperone as early as 3 years old. I mean, yeah, Japan is a special place, but Japan puts an emphasis on building and establishing strong moral character with their kids,
Hmm.
and other countries don't. But you're right. There are some countries that might try to suppress information because of tourism or whatever. They want people to feel
Hmm.
safe. But there are things that we do know, that have a huge impact on how the culture and how those people view crime. It means something in Japan to be a good, decent person,
Hmm.
and when you have a culture that does everything it can to uplift and support that, it's going to have a huge impact. We're a
The social
capitalist.
contract.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
we're a capitalist
Yeah.
society, so we don't really give a fuck about people being safe. We don't really care how much crime it is. Our concern in this country is money. I mean, it is. So we'll do what we can, to try to make people feel safe. But because of the economic structure of America, we're more concerned with the perception of crime reduction than we are with really reducing crime.
Well,
And if
correct.
you want to reduce crime, oh, go ahead, go ahead.
No, but correct me if I'm wrong. Doesn't in Japan? I thought I read somewhere that most crimes in Japan, like big time crimes, are crimes of passion. And secondly, most of the people in Japan commit a crime expecting to get caught. Is that,
Mm.
did I read that wrong, or am I coming out my ass with that one?
No, I've read some of that. Like, yeah, because they don't have a lot of like what we would consider like violent crime. So I've read that they have crimes of passion and even their suicide rates, but a lot of that ties in culturally to there being a strong emphasis on being a good person within their culture. And so, I've heard them like report on how sophisticated some of these suicides and things are. But again, I mean that makes sense to me. We're not dealing with a lot of crimes. I mean, we have domestic violence, but a lot of that is just bad programming. In America, we're just a very violent society. And that's the reality. We're a very, very violent society and a very aggressive society. I mean, compared to a lot of cultures. Even if you're, think about, traveling outside of the world, how easy it is to identify Americans because we're the ones that are quick to conflict. I mean, if immigration or somebody says, "Hey, you 20 people, I need you all to come over here, and we're going to explain this and everything," and you take 20 people in the room, and five of them are complaining, and I want to supervise and I want to talk to somebody. Those are the fucking five Americans. I don't care what it is. Everybody else is complying but us. We don't go easy and we look for allies. You know I'm right.
And we find out quick too, because in those other countries, the officers will like straight knock you out, take you
Yeah.
down. and other ones are way more tolerant. But you know, has anybody seen the video of that mother with her gun in her belt? She has a dress on and she has got a gun in her belt. She's got her son, he's in his school uniform. She's got him by one arm and she's standing outside the door talking to somebody we can't see. But she's talking to a mother telling her, look, if you don't handle your children, I'm gonna handle you. And then she started talking about gangs and gang violence, and she was like, "You smoking weed with your children, you're drinking with your children, you're bringing all kind of men into the house." She's just going through this litany of pointing out that you have made your children, they don't have no respect for you, they have no respect for anyone else. And so and it really, I mean, you could not disagree with what she was saying. Then she had her gun on her and she said, "You keep messing with me and you're going to find out." Now that's violence in and of itself, but she was operating off of principle, not off of, I'm just coming for you. It's like, I don't want my son playing with your son because you're not raising your son.
Yeah. And we never talk about that. We never talk about how aggressive women are in the United States. You know, hey, I'm gonna put it out there. You go to other countries, I tell people all the time, like, even if you talk about like fights in the club or inner city shit like that, man.
What is it over?
Hey, the women will rock and roll. They kicking off them shoes and they tearing some shit up, and that's a pretty, that's something that I don't see a lot of other places the way I do in America. I used to going out to the clubs. I mean, the larger portion of fights aren't dudes. Let's be honest. A lot of that shit, a lot of these murders are stemming from the conflict and the violence and the aggressiveness of a lot of women in the United States.
Mm-hmm. And the negligence too. I mean, there's a gentleman I know, he was shot in the head because this woman was still, she was married or separated or something like that. And then apparently a few months later, she was right back on Instagram trying to fish for somebody else to get jacked up by her ex-husband. Well, he's in jail now, so I guess he won't be shooting anybody else. But I mean, she's right back at it like homeboy's life didn't mean anything,
Oh yeah. Females will raise conflict right away, and they don't care. And even though they might know that the person they're talking to, they can't beat their ass, that it won't stop them from taking it to that level and taking it up a notch, because one or two things are going to happen. They're either going to call somebody to get their redemption, or half of them, the women out here now, are strapped. They don't care. They pull their pistol out and let it fly.
Yeah.
But I gotta say, women usually are the voice of reason, because when it comes down to it, we could be in our 50s, all three of us are, but we're still pretty immature when it comes to doing stupid shit. And I think women mature some. But yes, a woman scorned is dangerous. And I'm just saying I have a wife, I have 3 daughters. I know how mean teenage girls can be. I know how catty older women can be. So, but I still have to say, when it comes down to it, women are still the voice of reason.
No, you're saying that shit from a general perspective. But I'm telling you, if you take that shit to the streets, hell no. Women are extremely aggressive. I see way more chicks. They fight way quicker than dudes. Because here's the thing that you got to remember, guys. Most guys don't really want to elevate that conflict because they know where it can go. Like they'll like, nah, man, I'm not, bro, chill, because they know it's gonna morph into something more than it should be. So if don't get me wrong, there are ignorant guys that go out and they're with the intention of having a bad time and spoiling the fun for everybody else. But it does not take a lot for a female to escalate a situation. I literally was the last time I seen somebody get killed. I know that sounds fucking crazy, but the last time I seen somebody get killed, I was working with a couple of my partners. They used to run a club out here in the city, and I watched the whole fucking shit go down. And it was a girl who came in and she was having some words with her ex-boyfriend, and that shit went south. And I heard that dude call her a bitch, and she lit the fucking club on it. She knew enough cats to escalate it. And by the end of the night, these motherfuckers was popping off. and he got the short end. One of them got the short end of the stick, and the shit didn't end there because then his boys want to retaliate. And I'm not gonna get into names and everything because it's here, but no, I see it all the time. Females are quick, they break up with their ex, or this dude did some dirty shit to him. He gonna get theirs, and a lot of them are petty, and they ain't gonna let this shit slide. I mean, a lot of the 90% of the I go look at the rap sheets in jail, and look at the charges and everything, and go interview these guys and break it down what the story was about. A lot of times it's stemming from some female, like whether it's you disrespect my sister, my cousin, my mom, or whoever is going to bring violence. And a lot of those situations they know, so they don't mind throwing a little bit of gasoline on the fire. Yeah, and he called me a bitch, and he pushed me in the head, and he did that. That's going to escalate. And once you get that level of escalation, it morphs over into gunplay. Listen, there's stories behind a lot of this, and a lot of the women. Even when you want to let's take it another notch. Think about the number of chicks out there that's setting cats up. Think about the number of dudes that are sending a chick to the club and say, "Listen, go in there and fuck with that dude and find out everything about him and roll with him and drop a pin. Let me know where he sleep. Let me know what you see up in there, and I'll cut you in on the score." Oh, hell no. I'm sorry. Women out there that are going to come for my neck and say, I don't know what I'm talking. I don't know. Hey, I agree to disagree. That's bullshit. They are not the voice of reason. They are not the voice of reason. Not in this day and age, and not when we're talking about street level shit and how street level shit pops off. And there's a lot to lose out there. So guys is already on edge. It's like, yo, you look at a girl wrong and she lets her dude know or something. Who knows what you're gonna be into? Look at all the no. I'm sorry, I can go on for
Were you watching Andre's
I'm
face
not
during that
anti-women,
rant?
but
Were you
I'm
watching
definitely
Andre's
gonna tell you
face?
they're all caught up in the violence. They're always caught up in the violence.
Yeah. I was quiet because I'm like, yeah, in my experience, there's been a lot of, you go back to, we're Gen X. Let's go back to our college days. Uh, you know, Guys going, you're at a basketball game or a regular party or something, and an argument pops off, and the guy's going to his trunk for his shotgun or his 9 millimeter in the trunk of his car. You know it's about to go off, but a lot of times it had something to do with a woman. A woman was
Yep.
involved, or she was asking for retribution from somebody. Back in our college days, a buddy of mine, he had a twin brother. His twin brother spoke to, it was in a mall, got in an argument with a young lady, called her a B and all sorts of things out of her name, and she said, "Oh, okay, you're gonna get yours." And she went home and told her brothers, and they drove by his house. They went to his house, knocked on his door, and as he came down the steps, they shot him over 122 times with a automatic weapons. And so at the end of the day, a lot of wars were fought over, the female perspective of what's going on. Now, however, Pope Francis, said that if we want to solve, part of solving this world's problems was, one of the solutions was including women on, the decision to go to war. And he believes that they would actually not decide to send their kids off to war. But if they're upset, I'm with Atiba, man. They, in a lot of contexts, if they're upset, they're gonna ask for somebody to expect somebody to step up and handle it.
Well,
Yeah.
aren't most of the tragedies that were even written by Shakespeare were because of a woman? I mean, I'm not giving them a free pass, but I can tell you, when I think of men, like a group of guys that go out to Vegas, or a group of guys that get together at all, we act a lot differently than women do, especially in our 50s. Now, I'm not going back. I mean, yeah, back in college, a lot of the fights that I remember were always over how someone treated a girl, how they treated someone's ex, how they hooked up with a girl, how they're treating their girlfriend. I agree with you. But I have never gotten to the point where I've seen a woman get to the point where they're going to get into a fight. Maybe I'm just hanging out with different type of women. I don't
Well, yeah,
know.
that's a cultural difference. That's a cultural difference because I'm gonna tell you, wherever you're hanging out, I'm gonna tell you by far, on the streets and in the clubs, by far, I see more females fight than men.
Mm.
They will rock and roll at the drop of a dime. And let a couple of female cliques, like some girl be with her homegirls, and they pull up hard, and they're harder to stop the fight. Once they get going, it's like, you know what, we should take callers in on this line, because I'm telling you, there is the females, I would say, I see more in this day and age. Now, I would say if you went back into our era, it was a little different. I feel like, and get mad at me if you want out there, but women were more feminine. So back in our era, it was more like, no, they got their hair done, they were cute, they had an outfit. They weren't really trying to go there. And I'm not saying they don't get their hair done and get their outfit, but nowadays it's a disrespect. Like, it's more socially acceptable with these younger generations for females to fight. It was
You go
kind of
back to,
taboo back in the day. Like, you would hear, mothers talking to their daughters, like, you too cute to be fighting. Girl, you got your outfit, you don't do this. Nah, mothers nowadays is like, beat that bitch's ass. And I'm coming to beat her mama ass. And if she wants smoke, she can pull up. I mean, they coming, they bringing it. And if it goes beyond that and the shooting and everything, it's
I only got one phrase to use: world star.
World Star. Yeah, that's
And
what you.
it was
Gershon got to
nothing
go
but, it
World
was
Star.
mainly women on there fighting, young ladies on there. Yeah, they put
Yeah,
out the camp, and it was.
I think they will go there quicker, especially nowadays. They will go there quicker, and I would say I've seen more women go at a guy or create conflict with another woman, for like infidelity or cheating or who is this bitch. Like, I see more women go violent over that than men go violent. In fact, men, I don't know, at least when I was growing up, and for me, it's like, it's kind of this taboo, like, man, don't let your emotions get the best of you. If she with another dude, that's because she chose him. Men have been kind of conditioned to take it on the chin. And don't get me wrong, there are guys that go off, and it's hard for them to take, oh, my girl was doing this and that. But you're not like, most of your fellas and your homies are going to set you down and be like, bro, man, if she really cared about you, think about it like that. But women, that disrespect, it can trigger something violent nowadays with the younger generations. I'm sorry. If and a lot of the social media drama, is heightened. It's a lot going on with the females today, and they're quick to fight. And I tell this, look, how you've heard the 100 versus 100, right?
The gorilla thing, is that the
Yeah, there's all, like, online. I hear all these different scenarios. 100, U.S. against 100 from the U.K., 100 and this, and it goes back and forth. I haven't heard this one, but I'm gonna tell you like this: if anybody ever want to stake 100 women on 100 women, the United States is coming out Golden Gloves champ every motherfucking day of the week on that one, because our females will fight here, quick.
I don't know. My money might be on Israel because it's mandatory military.
Yeah, they got military, and I see them over there carrying guns. I just don't think they got the experience to fuck with. I'm gonna be honest. I feel like our women over here will give anybody a run for money.
Mm.
Wow.
I got beautiful daughters. Let me tell you, I got three beautiful, well, and one son. So I know they got the numbers on them, but I would say my daughters have been in way more fights than my son.
Mm.
And two of them are Army vets. And they've been in fights in the Army. And maybe that's it, because we got a lot of military women here. But I'll tell you, women here in the States, and I'll tell you another thing. Women here in the States don't mind fighting a man. You know, them days of, you know, and don't get me wrong, there's a lot of domestic violence, but it's a lot of women nowadays that's jumping on men too. We don't talk about that. And men might not go and report that, but trust me, these are not scary women here in the United States, especially those that are growing up in urban areas.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
Don't clip me up, Gersh. Don't clip me up and have all these women in my DM threatening me and shit.
You know, clip him. Don't clip him up, man.
Oh man.
Don't set me up to get hit by them. But I'm telling you, like, no. And I don't. And this is anecdote. I'm telling you, I'm sure somebody going to come out with these statistics and everything, but you know, boots on the ground will tell you these women will fight.
Wow. And with that, I think that is a great place to just step away, because that was very entertaining and very educational. But you know,
Yeah, guys, it's really different. It's really different culturally.
oh yeah, I would have to say so. Now, I have to say I have seen a lot of, because I'm here in California now, there is a lot of Latina heat. You know, the Latinas really get up there and get in people's faces and stuff like that. But I've never seen it to the point where, you know, they pull out a weapon. Usually it's just fist and hair pulling. But, you know, it's a whole different world. And the problem is, again, these conversations we're having are absolutely essential so people can understand truly what's going on. Because you're absolutely correct, Atiba. People are going to bring you heat for what you just said and what you were going off on. But you live it, you know it. And I'm pretty sure, Andre, where you're at, from the church's standpoint, you hear stuff as well. But I think going forward, I hope people just keep an open mind and just think about what was said instead of coming after you for being a misogynist. I just saying. I mean that. I mean, because that's how people are going to come at you, right? They're going to be like, "Oh yeah, he's just a misogynist. He's just talking bad about women. He doesn't know." But Atiba, you live this. You work this. This is your job. So when it comes to someone being an expert, I would listen to you.
Yeah, and be and you know, culturally, you have never had to you know, experience what would happen to you if somebody disrespected your girl and you didn't fight them. So we got to change some of these cultural elements that have been acceptable in our society for so long, because you know, people are dying on these swords, man. This guy's probably going to jail just because, man, what was I supposed to do? Think about how many dudes said in jail, like, what was I supposed to do, man? He disrespected my sister. What do you think they're gonna do? Like, no, you weren't supposed to go to jail. Yeah, I get it, bro. I understand. I'm in here because dude disrespected my girl.
Oh wow. I don't think any woman's worth that, and I love my wife worth more than anything. But I take that back. If someone does something to my wife or my daughters, I will go to prison with a smile on my face. I do have to say that. But I don't think I could ever have done that for a girlfriend. I don't know. Maybe I'm just raised differently. But with that, I want to say thank you for listening. Next time on End the Violence, we'll make sure that, you know, maybe we can see how many other people we could get into the conversation, because this is, like I said, this is just conversation. This is just about learning the facts. And, you know, if the government's going to tell us that crime is truly coming down, you got to listen to the whole story. We'll talk to you next time here on End the Violence. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.